Welcome back to the Paddock Talk channel, where today we will be reacting to AlphaTauri's 2021 challenger, the AT02. I am joined by Joel to discuss our thoughts on the new livery before handing over to Ryan to give his detailed technical analysis of the car. But firstly, Joel, what do you make of the livery?
I'm a real big fan of this livery, to be honest. I think last year's livery I was a huge fan of as well. And I think obviously with this year, they've added a lot more dark blue to the car, especially to the front end. There's two things I'm not quite a big fan of. And for a start, that's the white barge boards, but hopefully that's just part of the renders and that's changed for pre-season. The second thing's the white wheels. They could be a bit better. I'd like it if it was black or maybe even dark blue to go with the dark blue on the car. But overall, I think it's a really nice livery.
It certainly wasn't the lack of trying. I think the last time white wheel rims were used was Williams. I'm pretty sure I saw back in the 2000s. They've definitely gone for something different there. Yeah, I was massive fan of last year's livery. I really liked, especially from the front. I'm not as keen on this year's livery. I would have liked if they would have added a bit more white to the front end of the car, like last year's livery where it kind of had the dark blue patch at the front and then it went into white. I think
Yeah,
if they'd have reversed that and had the white there, that would have made it look perfect. From the sides, I actually do really like the side design, like the streaky line. I do like that, and the way it goes all the way through the car from the front to the back, it is implemented really nicely, and they kept the red Honda logo. Um, yeah, from the front, I'm not hugely in love. I mean, I don't hate it, but as I said, I don't love it.
yeah. To be fair, I'll have to go against you on you saying that. I like the front end how it's dark blue. It reminds me the livery overall. It kind of reminds me of the old BMW Williams liveries of the early 2000s. I think
Yeah,
that was when they were together. It reminds me a lot of that. But as well the red Honda livery, no livery logo on the side pod. Yeah, I like that as well. Obviously, it'll be Honda's last year in F1, and I think it's a really nice livery overall. Anyway.
yeah. I'm just looking at the overhead shot, and you can see how much by the engine cover, how much white there is. It just feels like they could have maybe implemented a bit more white on the front. As I said, if they'd reversed last year's livery, I think that would have made it look 10 times better. But I think the main thing to kind of take away from this launch is the fact that the render shots are quite deceiving. I think we both agree on that. That having seen pictures of the two drivers with the car in more like a real life shot,
Yeah, definitely.
because I was surprised I was expecting to wake up at 7, 8 in the morning, whatever it was, and I was expecting to see the exact same livery because we saw Red Bull since 2016 they've kept the exact same livery. And then we had Toro Rosso in their former name. They assembled on a great livery in 2017, and they kept it all the way up to 2019. And because last year's livery got such a huge good response, I thought they were going to keep it the same. So massive props to them for actually changing it, and they've not done a bad job. As I said plenty of times, they could have done a few things differently, but it's not a hideous livery. And I think on track actually it will look a lot better than it does on the renders.
Yeah, at least they've changed it, unlike McLaren, and at least we didn't have to wait 40 odd minutes watching some useless launch ceremony to see delivery.
Certainly a nice change of pace to see them instantly reveal the car rather than have to sit through two drivers playing musical instruments that doesn't really add much to the show. But
Yeah,
another thing to talk about is they did reveal their driver suits and driver race suits, and they are different to last year. What did you make of them?
I'm actually, that's another thing I actually like the race suits. I've got a photo just up here of them, and I do like the sort of like slanted, sort of triangular sort of shape I think they're trying to do with it. I'm quite a fan of
Yeah,
them. It just looks tidy. I think, obviously, I've seen a lot of people saying they don't like it, but personally, I'm quite a big fan of it.
I'm a fan of the design, like what they've gone for with the navy blue block in the middle. But I'm not sure on the slant. I don't think the slant works too well with because they got the dark blue carrying on the underside of the sleeve. I don't think having a slant design works there. I think I would like to have seen. You probably find an edit of it somewhere of just the straight lines, and I think that would have been looked perfect because I'm a huge fan of a lot of teams are starting. Well, I say a lot of teams. I think it's AlphaTauri and maybe Red Bull and Alfa Romeo. They've got the kind of name on the side of the race suit. I do like that added effect. But yeah, in terms of the race suits, the only problem is the slant. But for me, same as last year, perfect.
Yeah, well, obviously, at least they've made a change overall, unlike McLaren. So We'll be happy with
Yeah,
that.
we can't really complain if a team's trying different things. That's all we ask for, really.
Exactly,
But
yeah.
yeah, that's been our analysis of the livery. Now on to the more important matters in the video, and it'll be Ryan's technical analysis of the AlphaTauri AT02.
AlphaTauri have now joined McLaren in announcing their 2021 Challenger. What we're going to do now is have a look at some of the areas of interest that we've spotted on the AT02. Starting at the front of the car, what we can see that AlphaTauri are continuing to use the wide nose design that was starting to go off fashion last year. AlphaTauri also have an optive to go for the high mounted suspension system as seen on the McLaren. An interesting addition to the AT02 is a small opening I've circled in red. I suspect that this duct is being used to re-energise the airflow underneath the nose cone. They do this because as the air flows underneath the nose cone, it starts to expand, and this expanding air creates turbulence and therefore drag. So by supplying this region with high energy airflow, they can stop the air from expanding, allowing it to be effectively used elsewhere. Highlighted in green, we also see a smaller version of the cape which helps direct air to the leading edge of the floor. Moving back to the side pods of the AT02, we can see that AlphaTauri have adopted fairly large air intakes compared to what we typically see in recent years. If we look to the side of the car, the AT02 appears to have a rather low rake angle, which is surprising since Toro Rosso and now AlphaTauri have typically followed the same design philosophy as Red Bull, so I have my reservations about whether this is just something that's come from the renders or it will be a characteristic that we see on the real car this year, but we'll have to wait and see. Again, I've drawn the rush shape of the bodywork using red and yellow lines, and what becomes immediately clear is the AT02 seems to be bulkier than that of the McLaren. The side pods don't have much of an undercut, and the engine cover extends much further back than what we'd seen on the MCL 35M. Looking at the top view of the AT02, I've also highlighted the bodywork shape again, and you can see that the side pods are visibly larger than what we saw on the McLaren, and that AlphaTauri haven't been able to maximise the Coke bottle shape at the rear of the car. It'll be really interesting to see what Red Bull are able to do with this, because at the moment it seems that the Honda power unit isn't allowing for as tighter packaging as the Mercedes counterpart. On the topic of the new floors, I explained how the new regulations changed how the teams would approach the floor area for this year. And we covered this in the McLaren analysis video, so if you haven't seen that video yet and you want to know more about the floor changes, I recommend that you check it out. Anyway, back to the AlphaTauri, and what we can see on the edge of the floor is a couple of slot gaps, and what these slot gaps do is they generate a vortex that travels down the edge of the floor, and this is used to direct tyre squirt away from the diffuser, and what we can see AlphaTauri doing here is trying to claw back as much of that effect as they can. And that concludes my analysis of the AlphaTauri AT02. And I'll now hand you back over to the guys at the Paddock Talk podcast.
Well, thanks to Ryan for recording his breakdown of AlphaTauri's 2021 car, the AT02. Be sure to check his links out down in the description. As mentioned previously, we will be doing these type of videos for all 10 car reveals before pre-season, so keep an eye on the channel page for those. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe to the channel. Next time you'll hear from us, it will be the second episode of the podcast coming this weekend, so we will see you then on the Paddock Talk channel.